Hello, and welcome to Workday On Demand for Human Capital Management. We're going to talk to you today about how we're making things simpler, faster, and smarter for our customers. Today, this is a pre-recorded one-hour overview of our Human Capital Management solution, but we also have live Workday overviews in all of our product areas. So if you'd like to join us for one of those, you can go to our website, workday.com, and join us for any one of our one-hour previews across the product suite, which includes Human Capital Management, payroll, time tracking, recruiting, financials, expenses, and, of course, technology. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm your host for the next hour, and my name is Christine Ferguson. I've been with Workday for a little over 8 years in various roles, including strategy and pre-sales, and have responsibility with our Center of Excellence. And for those of you on the phone who are going to be or are already our customers, you're probably wondering what we're going to be presenting today, just in terms of what update. We are on update 22, which came out on April of this year. And with 22, it brought with us 347 new features. And of those 347 new features, 68 were created by our customers. So we're always collaborating with customers, and you'll hear us talk about that a lot. But the best number, I think, on that slide is 6, because we moved everybody from Workday 21 to Workday 22 in less than 6 hours. So we're always thinking about new and better ways of doing things. And speaking of doing things differently and better, Albert Einstein, I think, said it the best. The significant problems we face today cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we were at when we created them. And we know that the enterprise of today has had so many different challenges, so many different technologies, and so much new legislation to comply with. And we know that the ERP systems that are like 20 years old, that have wrapped and layered and acquired new systems, they're just too heavy and expensive to address the business challenges of today. So what are the business challenges of today? Really, what has changed in the world? Well, people's lives are just different. We already know that. We're all on the go. We're more mobile, more global. We're more informed. We collaborate more. And frankly, we just expect a lot more of our technology. We're much more demanding of that. So when we think about that, our expectations of our users have changed. We think about the consumer internet applications that we use every day, and we expect our business applications to be just as easy to use, just as consistent, just as valuable, just as much of an impact. So I want to make sure that it's easy to use from that perspective. We also know that we have a changing business landscape that's there in the middle. There's no more bricks and mortar. Everybody is everywhere. We've got contingent workers. We've got lines of business. We've got networked subject matter experts. We've got teams and committees, so we want to make sure that we're keeping track of all of those. And globalization now is just part of doing business, so people and resources are everywhere. We want to make sure they're all in one place for you to report on and for you to optimize as a business. Because let's face it, your resources and your human capital, they really are your best assets. And we're going to see some examples of those with our own customers as we go through the presentation. And the last piece here at the bottom is changing technologies. Everything is changing. We are moving away from on-premise. Everything is in the cloud. Nobody's at their desk anymore. They're all on their mobile devices, carrying all of that information around with them. Everything isn't siloed anymore. Everybody likes things in one place, or things that work together and collaborate with other systems and make them smart mashups that are relevant and meaningful for the end user. And we want to make sure that I never again run a report and then have to go log into a system. I should be in my system, see something, and then be able to take action. And that's really the format that we have for today. When we have changing user expectations and a changing business landscape and changing technology, when we start from scratch and we think about how to have an impact for our customers, we want to make things simpler, we want to make things faster, and we want to make sure that we're doing this and make sure that it's smarter. And that's how our customers are going to help keep up with the pace of change in their own business landscapes. So let's focus on simplicity. Let's focus on why simple matters. And as we all know, if something's easy to use, people are going to use it. It's so simple. So we really focused on being easy to use for the end user, no matter what kind of user, whether it was a power user or a manager or an executive or an employee. And the goal was to make sure they had a repeatable and a consistent user experience so that everybody would use the product. That's how we make it sticky. The other goal that we had on the right-hand side here is to make sure that Workday was with you wherever you are. on the road, on the go, make the information easy to consume, make it easy for folks to participate and collaborate without being at your desk to use it. Make sure you can do it with one hand if you're on your device, or maybe you're swiping across on your iPad or on your tablet. Make sure that all of that is there for you. When we think about simplicity, John Maida actually wrote the laws of simplicity, and he talked about subtracting the obvious and adding the meaningful. And if you look at this little device here at the top, and you take a look at this button here on the left-hand side, you'd only really know how to turn it on if you understood those symbols. It's not really a meaningful addition. But if we take a look at this piece over here, the off button, we know that if you show me where the off button is, I'll not only know how to turn it off, but I know how to turn it on. It's universal. It works the same way everywhere. And we wanted to get away from proprietary language and proprietary kinds of things and have universal features that are meaningful for our customers. So when we think about that, we think about helping people get meaningful answers out of their system to these everyday questions that they're having so much trouble getting answers to. And that was just like the folks at Yahoo. They talked about being able to answer questions. When we talked to their CHRO, she told us why it all matters. She says, our executives ask questions about the nature of our workforce. They're always asking us, how many people do we have, and where are they located, and what kind of jobs are they doing in each one of those locations, and are they good performers, and where are we getting our new talent? And in a competitive landscape, HR needs to be right there with them, asking the questions before the executives do, and making sure that we're giving them answers before they even know what questions to ask. So they want to make sure that they've got that insight, they can answer all of those questions. So let's go ahead and we'll jump into the product and show you some of those meaningful additions, those universal features that we talked about that are helping our customers get answers to their own questions every day. So we're going to log in here as a user by the name of Robert Singh. And Robert has access to his desktop information right here. And again, this is the same for every user when they're logging in. So let's make this a little bit bigger here for everybody can see it. There we go. And some of these are universal features. We've got access to our menus here, so I can go and look up dashboards or put my favorites on there, put big reports out, look at my documentation. I can always search. Think about how you find information today. What do? You go out to Yahoo, you go out to Google, right? You go out and you ask your question. Every day there's 20% of the questions that get asked that have never been asked before. So we don't want to have to drive the application through menus. I should just be able to type in someone's name, like Gia, and find her, or a number and find the cost center. So I should be able to have smart searches everywhere in the application in my business applications. That makes sense. I also should make sure that my own homepage is meaningful to me, so I can configure that with my own worklist, the stuff that I use every day, not the stuff that the vendor's telling me they think is important for me. I know what I need to configure that. And the other piece up here is making sure that we've got all of the personal information about someone in the top right-hand corner, just like you do in all your consumer internet applications. Next time you log in, look and see where all your information is, and it's in the top right-hand corner. If you haven't noticed it before, you'll notice it now. And you can notice it just by clicking, and I can view his profile, or I can go into my inbox. Stuff that needs my attention, stuff I'm on point for, notifications that I need to be aware of. So all of that's consolidated right here. And if I want to take a look at my own profile, again, it's one click away. And this is a profile, professional profile for all of your employees. It's everything that you would ever ask about someone because everything's in one system. You've got core information, your payroll, your expenses details, all of that is here. And if this doesn't have enough information on Robert, Robert can always go ahead and put his best foot forward by bringing in his profile from LinkedIn. Maybe we don't know the best version of him. Maybe there were projects that he's worked on that haven't been updated, so he can go ahead and do that. And you can see here when I'm looking at my ribbon across the middle here, I can ask any kind of question. I can ask contact details, personal details, compensation, benefits, payroll, performance, my career, all of that's there for me. I can ask any question. I can change the lens any way because all of it's in one system. So let's go ahead and take a look at those meaningful additions to the application to help Robert get answers to those questions that the folks at Yahoo were talking about and the folks that I talk to every day that are challenged getting answers to those promised answers questions that we would have from ERP that nobody's really getting. So let's take a look at that. Look at my team. Who actually works here? Well, this is pretty easy. I've divided this into 3 sections. There's my team right there in front of me. There's the actions that I can perform, transfer, job, maybe I want to change location, talent, maybe I want to add them to a succession plan if I'm building out a slate of candidates, and any kind of views that I might have, org charts, directory swirls, head count, want to compare people on the team, the things that I do on a regular basis. And what's great here is these are all the same. So when I look at Gia, when I look at anybody in the application, I can just click on this right here. It's called a related action, and I'm always presented with a preview of this person. Anywhere in Workday, we're going to see this a couple of times, so you're going to know this off by heart. And any page in Workday is also a report. Take it out to Excel, take it out to PDF. Those are universal features. I don't have to go somewhere to run it. It's right there in front of me, just one click away. So you can view her team, her contact details, core data, and of course looking at her talent here. So I can see where she falls in her performance and her talent matrix. All of that's in one place. Again, and I did that with one click. You're going to hear me say one a lot because it's one to do everything. So one to see information and one to impart change. So if I see something and I need to change it, here's where I can go, and I have my manager self-service built right in. I don't have to go somewhere else. I'm on Gia, so from Gia, where do I want to go? I want to just maybe request a comp change or a job change for her. So all the things that I can do for her, I can do right here. Let's move her over here for just 1 second. We're just going to leave her off to the side. Now let's look at this other employee that I have, and her name is Jenna. And when we take a look at Jenna, let's just move her right next to Gia. You'll see that there's a little C that's right next to her name. Well, she's not actually an employee. She's actually a contingent worker. And with the huge numbers that we're seeing with contingent labor, more and more people are doing contingent work on a part-time basis or on their own schedules. We want to make sure that for managers, they really understand the entire scope of how work is getting done on their team. So I can look at my employees and my contingent workers side by side. I could compare the cost. Maybe there's certain roles or certain job profiles that are a lot less expensive for us to have employees versus contingent workers. Maybe it's the other way around. I know when I talk to a lot of our customers, they say to us, you know, even when our headcount is frozen, I can always get a contractor. And it's unbelievable how many people do not have insight into that worker pool and that workforce. And of course, we're making sure that security is also keeping me real here, so I can't do any comp changes because she's not an employee. But if I do a job change, it's going to be appropriate for a contingent worker. Maybe I like her so much I'm going to convert her to an employee. Maybe I'm going to end the contingent worker contract. But I can do all of that right from here. And I did it all with just one click. So that's who works here. And we took a look at that. Now we can also see the number side of that. The who works here is always tying back to budgets. It's always tying back to headcount. I'm always looking at my requisitions. So here's where I can take a look at my workers, and I'm always rewarded for curious clicking. So more universal features here. Anytime I look at a number in Workday, I can just click on that number, and I can see who makes up that number. So here are the 4 people in the operations group in America, Brian and Dawn and Ellen and Yolanda, and you'll notice that if I click on any of them, even though I'm on a report, there's my preview, right? I've got my information, my insight, and I have the ability to take action. My manager self-service is embedded right in there. So I can agree to disagree with finance. I can slice and dice by org or by cost center, but I've got insight into my workforce, the who and the how many. The other thing that I want to make sure I've got access to from a recruiting perspective is my pipeline of candidates. As I'm building out these teams, maybe I'm actually compensated on making sure I'm always working with a full team. So I want to make sure that I've got insight into that pipeline. So that's what our recruiting is going to provide. So he can look for candidates, he can invite people to apply. Maybe he just wants to look at his own job requisitions that are outstanding. So he can just click right on his job recs. He's got all of these right here. And he can see for his HR manager for a EMEA job that he's got posted that he's got a count of 6 candidates. So this is how we're now collaborating from a recruiting perspective. It's not just one person's job, it's everybody's job. So now he's got insight. He can just with one click see everything about that requisition. So he knows he's going to go and see Carmen later on, so he can talk about where he's getting the best candidates. He can see for this requisition he's got some folks that are new, some are in screening stage, some are in interview stage. Again, you decide how all those stages are going to be defined. And you can also see that we're looking at the pipeline right here. We've got 6 candidates, one's a referral, and one is an internal candidate. So we're also making sure that we're leveraging our best source of hires, those referral programs, and we're also giving people opportunities. Now this is, again, the benefit of having everything in one system. We've got the job posting, and an internal person can apply and an external person can apply, and we can compare to get the best person for the job. So we can have insight into that as well. You've also got insight into the candidates themselves. So here's Hugo and David, there's our referral. And again, just by clicking on that related action, I'm seeing that same information, right? Even though it's a candidate, now I'm looking at their contact and their CV, skills and education. I could open that up, take a look at the, his resume, so I could take a look at all of those details. So I've got all that information right here at my fingertips. Again, just one click away from the job posting, the qualifications, the candidates, and the actual requisition itself. So very quick and easy for him to do. And of course, he can take that on his mobile device as well, and we're going to see that in just a few minutes. So when we take a look at this, we've got the who works here, and now I've got insight into my pipeline and my candidate pipeline, and I've got access to my team. Now we want to take a look at a different side of the coin, which of course is the compensation side of that. And when we take a look at this, again, we've got our manager self-service. So what are the things that I want to do? So I can do comp changes, which again I could do just from a person. Maybe I want to run some reports, or maybe the thing that I want to do is just look at my team here. So here's my group that I have within my group, excuse me. And you can see here that we've got a group that's very international. Robert happens to have folks all over the world. That's why he's hiring an HR manager for EMEA. And he's got folks that are compensated in all kinds of different currencies. But he himself happens to be based in the U.S., so we want to make sure that we're seeing that both ways, right? So we're making sure we're seeing that in U.S. dollars and in the base currency. We also want to make sure that we're comparing our employees. What is the market position for that? So when I take a look at this, I can see who's above market, who's at market, and I can see actually everyone's doing pretty well. So I don't think I have any concerns here, but of course I always want to make sure that I've got my finger on the pulse of that so that I can take action if I need to. Now the compensation side, we usually think of what does it cost, and it's a pretty big line item, isn't it? It's probably one of a company's biggest expenses. But the other side of the cost of an employee that goes walking around is not just the salary and the benefits and the bonus and the stock options, it's also the spend, the resources, and that's what we also want to make sure that we're giving a manager insight into. They're probably compensated to make sure they've got a full team all the time, and they're also probably managing a budget. So we want to make sure that we give our managers insight into that. So it's looking at their expenses, making sure they're looking at the spend of the organization, and I can see here for that EMEA group that if I click right next to the number, I can slice and dice by any way I want to. Well, that's awesome, because I don't always know what question I want to ask, do I? So HR for EMEA, okay, well, my first question is who on earth is spending all the money? So let's go and take a look here, and we'll look at which worker is my most expensive worker or workers. And I can see here that it's Lee Friedman. Huh, okay, so she's the one who's actually incurring all of this. That's okay, but let's see what she's spending it on. So maybe we'll take a look here at the expense items. So what is she actually spending it on? Well, it doesn't look too bad. Lodging, airfare, international airfare, seems a bit high there, but, we'll take it and we'll look at it. This seems like just expense travel, travel for work expenses. So that seems to be okay. But again, we want to make sure that we're giving our managers insight and the ability to manage that. And we're going to see that a few more times as we go through in different ways. So compensation, looking at the how much does it cost from a comp and a spend perspective. But when I also think about compensation, I always think of it going hand in hand with performance. So let's take a look at that as well. And we can see here for Robert, he's got a couple of different things that he can take a look at. So he's got his performance reviews, a really great smart chart. So this is always giving me insight. Where am I? Okay, I started. I've got 3 done. There's nobody in flight. I've got 1 I haven't started yet. So always making sure it's keeping me in track and in line for what I need to do. The other thing that you've also got access to here is that we're not just using our performance management framework for performance reviews, which of course we do, we're using it for other things as well, things like development plans and putting that together so somebody's off to a great start, or if they need to improve, we can do that there. Or a performance improvement plan. Maybe we need to manage somebody out of the organization. Or maybe we've got some disciplinary actions. The point is that we're managing that all through one framework, so it's very quick and easy for somebody to start and keep track of. And of course, are we in fact paying for performance? I want to make sure that I'm tying those two together, so that compensation and that performance always going hand in hand. Now here's where I'm taking a look at that. I've actually, the way I've structured my salary plans here is that I've got them divided into quartiles, and I can see that there's actually somebody here who's below my lowest quartile, and their performance review said that they exceed expectations. Well, that's really bad. So I want to make sure that I go in here and I want to look at the details behind that, right? I'm always rewarded for my curious clicking. It's Gia. Gia said she was at market when we just looked at that. Okay, so that's interesting because even though Gia is actually at market, well, when I look at this, her performance reviews say that she's actually really high, but she's below that quartile. So what do you think I'm going to do? Well, I know what I'm going to do. I was waiting to see if you knew what I was going to do. Of course, I'm going to go click right on that related action, and I'm going to take action right from there. So here's where I can go right to compensation. I'm going to request a compensation change. Very quick and easy. So it gave me the insight, and I could take action. So very quick and easy to do that. Why am I doing it? Well, that's up to me, and you can define all of your different rules. Maybe I'll say it's a market adjustment or for performance reasons, I'll say. And this gives me insight into what she is paid currently, so what is her current plan. And what pops up there is something that I think all analytics should do. Sadly, they don't, but in Workday they do, and these are called contextual analytics. So think of the last time maybe you bought a book or you were looking at a movie online, and the system gave you stuff that you weren't even thinking about. Other people that bought the book also liked these other books, or here's some reviews about the movie that you're looking at. Here's some feedback. So this is stuff that managers should be thinking about that maybe they haven't thought of as they do this compensation request. Well, you know what? She hasn't actually been here for very long. That's something I want to think about. The talent analysis. Well, she looks like she's doing great. She's got some high ratings here. She's in a critical job, really high in my 9 box. Look at that. She's one of my top performers there. Then I get to compensation, and this, to me, looks like the problem. High potential, and you know what? She's below the comp ratio. Well, let's see where she falls. Oh my gosh, this is awful. Look at this. She's my lowest paid person on the team. Now I could go and compare her to her peers here, side by side, maybe see how long each one had been here. Maybe some of them have been here longer. But you know what? I'm gonna make that change right here. And all I have to do is just click on my salary area. I could add a bonus or what have you. You can put in a new amount or a percentage, whatever you want to put in, and it'll calculate your new amount, and then you're off to the races. You can go ahead and submit your change. So that is the kind of thing where we're not just giving people the answer to the question, we're giving them the answer to the question, and we're giving them the ability to affect change. And that is how you have an impact. So we're going to go back here, and the last thing we're going to take a look at is from talent perspective. And when we think about talent, you know, it's not just performance reviews, you know, or performance improvement plans or development plans. It's all about talent reviews too, checking out somebody's skills, what their aspirations are, what their goals are, their career interests and their job interests, and making sure that we're feeling like they're engaged all the time and that they know what other opportunities there are. So we could go ahead and do a talent review from here. Maybe we want to have one-on-one conversations and print talent cards, right? Maybe we're going in to say, you know what, let's do this and make it more personal. So we could have it on our iPad, or maybe we could have it right in front of us. So you can do all of that right from there. Maybe the thing that I want to do here is look at my succession plan and do some succession slate, plan some candidates out there. We're going to do that a little bit later. Or maybe we just want to look at where all of our folks fall. I want to look at what I'm actually dealing with here when I look at my team as a whole. So let's take all the teams that I have. Let's do that again. All the teams that I have and everyone that rolls up underneath them. And we'll take a look at this. So this tells me that for all the organizations that I chose, that I've got a pretty good team, except for this person right here, Dawn Myers. She's pretty low in her performance and potential, but you know what? I've got some other folks that are great up here at the top. As you're moving your teams around and calibrating your teams, of course, you could drag and drop them and put those plans into place. You can also use our faceted search over here on the left. So maybe if I'm dealing with larger numbers, I only want to deal with Robert's team, or I only want to look at Logan's team, or folks that are in Shanghai. So here's where we could do all of our planning all in one place. So just getting back to our home page here, this is really focused on how really we've done very little clicking, and we've had the ability to answer so many questions. We've helped them answer a lot of questions. Who works here? What are they doing? How much does it cost the organization? You know, am I in check? Do I have a ready pipeline of leaders? Do I have a group of candidates for my open head count? and what are we spending. So making sure that we're looking at that, and where we have leadership issues and maybe where we need to improve or manage some folks out of the organization. The point is that we've got all of this available in one place because it's all in one system. So those are some examples of simplicity and making it easy to answer questions, but really, why is it important? Well, when we talk about things being important, simplicity drives execution. Something's easy to use, it's going to make you easy and it's going to make you nimble as an organization. And let's talk about Flextronics. They are a great customer of ours, and when their business leaders would ask HR questions in the past about their workforce, HR would actually have to go chase down the information and then consolidate it all together, and by the time they actually had the answer, it was already out of date. It took them so long to get the answer. And what they did with Workday is they actually consolidated 80 HR systems down to one with Workday. And their CEO, Mike McNamara, always talks about simplicity driving execution. So with having everything in one place, and with their labor costs being one of their company's largest expenses, they can answer questions about the people, the labor, the cost. They've got insight into all of that with just a click, and that makes them nimble as an organization, and that for them is why simplicity matters. So we've talked about simplicity, but like all consumer internet applications that you use and that I use, like the Yahoos and the Googles and the LinkedIns and the Facebooks of the world, we got to make sure that it's not just easy to use at your desktop. It's got to be right there with you in your hand, with you when you're on the go, with you when you're on the road, in between meetings, and that's why the other part of simplicity is mobile. And I actually get asked a lot about mobile. A lot of our customers talk about it and why they should care about it. And about a month ago when we were launching recruiting, one of our customers was up on stage, really great speaker, and he says to the audience, you know, I could forget to put my socks on in the morning, but I would never forget my mobile device. And everyone was howling, everyone was laughing. It's with us everywhere all the time. Everyone knew how true that was. I have forgotten tons of things, but I never ever forget my mobile phone. And the average person has their mobile in reach 14 hours a day. So we wanted to make sure that Workday was right alongside all of our customers. And our customers would agree. This is where we've seen a huge surge in mobile growth. So when we think about tablet use and the deployment of it, it's up 500% in a year. And when you think about mobile devices, that's up 1,200%. And you think about that and you say, well, why is that? Well, that's because these applications change your life. They make it easy to have your life on the go with you. So let's take a look at mobile with Robert. And he's maybe in between some meetings here. He's left his desk. He's got some time, and he happens to have his mobile device with him. So let's jump back in here. So we're on a mobile simulator. So this can look like an iPhone that I have here, but you can see he's got it in one hand. He's holding his briefcase in the other, and he can do all of this just with his thumb. Now we won't see my thumb. We'll just see a little mouse here, but you can see where I'm clicking. So I've just clicked on Robert as a worker, and he's got access to his team, so he can take a look at his little directory here, contact details. Any of his social handles are all there for him. So very quick and easy to be able to use that. He can also tap and look at his team or look at the worker directory right here. He's also got access to his inbox. So it's not only taking a look at all of the things that are out here in terms of HR data, but we're looking at recruiting information, we're looking at screenings, we're looking at expenses. Again, it's one consolidated inbox for all of the applications. So when we're taking a look at expenses that he needs approved, he's got to do an interview and he's got to rate somebody, he's got to do a screening for someone. So again, he can participate and collaborate while he's standing outside the elevator, maybe as he's leaving the building. Now, he can also put in here maybe a time off request. So here's where, you know, he wants to do that, and, you know, he knows there's some holidays that are coming up this summer that he wants to plan for, so we'll go ahead and request some time off. Maybe we want to look somewhere out in August, and maybe we're going to request a Friday here. So quick and easy to be able to do that. What plan do I want to take this away from? Well, I've got some vacation time that's been saved up, 8 hours, August 1st. I'm going to go ahead and submit it. And not only do I submit it, but I also now know where it's sitting. It's sitting with Logan. So I'll always be able to track that and see where my request is actually sitting. So very quick and easy to be able to do that as well. And what's great about this is that we're not just looking at time off, we're looking at everything. So I can look at my pay slip if I wanted to see the last time that I got paid. If I'm on the road and maybe I took one of our candidates to lunch and I wanted to expense it, again, I could just click right there, take a picture, upload my receipt, my photo of my receipt, and I've got my expenses done. So making our life easier. So that's what it's all about. And now you can do all of that with your mobile device. And the last thing we'll take a look at here is actually some of the recruiting, because he's always concerned about building a pipeline. That's something that he's always talking about, nurturing candidates, nurturing prospects. So he's got, with a couple of clicks, easy access to his entire pipeline here. He's got his open jobs up here at the top. How many? Quick and easy, it's 2. How many things do I need to take my on point for? 2. How many active candidates do I have? 7. And how many people am I nurturing that I might not have an application for or a job for yet? 2. So quick and easy to consume that. So I can go ahead here and look at the actual job itself. There's my HR manager for EMEA, my senior HR rep. Tap there, I can see all the information about it, the job, the responsibilities, the duties. I can even see who's been referred. Biggest way to kill a referral program is to not respond, so let's make that front and center for our hiring managers and for our recruiters and for our internal applicants, or our candidates rather, as well. So we've got all of that sitting there in one place. Quick and easy for him to manage that, and he's even got action that's required here, so he can tap right in there. What is the action that's required? Well, he's got 2 candidates that he's got in the pipeline. He needs to review them here and schedule some interviews. So maybe he wants to take a look at Hugo. Some really easy stuff here. I can see he's applied for more than one job. I can go ahead and rate his interview now. Maybe he's left his desk because he's gone to meet Hugo, and he's walking out of the meeting and he says, you know what? Before I go in my meeting, let me check out everything about Hugo. Well, that's very quick and easy to do. I can see he's been here for 14 years, 7 years in that last job. I can look at his jobs, his education. I can take a look at his resume or his CV. And even before I go in, I can look at his network. If he shared his handles with me, now maybe we've got some people in common, and I can really beef up that conversation. Or I could have looked at this beforehand and said, hey, you know what? We've got somebody in common who we know. I'm going to reach out to that person and see what it's going to take to bring Hugo on board. And if I've got any questions, one tap, and I've got my recruiter information there as well. So making sure that it's quick and easy to do, because we want to make sure that that recruiting pipeline is shortened all the time. And from here, he can go right in, decide he wants to rate the person, and maybe I'll say I highly recommend him, put in a little comment there, and we're good to go. So very quick and easy to be able to do that. So for him, he's all about his mobile device. He's on his way back to his desk, but again, he was productive in between meetings, or maybe he's on the train. So making sure that you always have that in your hand. So simplicity really does matter for our customers. And as we jump back here, it's not just about simple, it's also about making sure that you love the application, and it's also making sure that it's right there with you. Because let's face it, if it's difficult to use, it's going to be impossible to love. So let's talk about reason number 2 why customers are choosing Workday, and that is because it's just faster. Well, we just saw how easy it was to use Workday, so we already know if something's easy to use, people will use it again and again. And we're engaging users now in a different way. It's not just easy to use and with you. We have to make sure that when you're using it, you actually are adding value and having an impact at your company. So the one constant that we all know about is change. And in the past, reacting to change has been really challenging, super painful, and let's face it, it's always slow. So when we thought about how users could embrace change, we thought about giving them tools that they could use without having to constantly rely on other groups so that they could have an immediate impact. And TripAdvisor is a great story. Our philosophy is speed wins. Don't you love that? Speed wins. And when we looked at Workday, said, these guys get it right. So starting in 2000, they actually focused themselves on making their own customers' experience faster and better and more reliable than ever before. And they're actually now the largest travel website in the world. And their motto, speed wins, delivering that at the fastest speed possible, is exactly what they're all about. And their president and CEO, he actually uses Workday as well. And he said he has no training, he hasn't looked at a user manual, and they've got one system that they access for HCM and for financials. He doesn't have to deal with messy integrations. He's got consistent reporting across the enterprise. They want to delight their customers, and we want to delight them. And that's exactly what the application is all about. So when we think about how we gave our customers the ability to impart change, we thought about guidelines that we had to give ourselves in order to do that. And so the first guideline is that the change should involve configuration and not customization. And as so many of us know, customization is actually the reason that a lot of people can't upgrade. I can't tell you how many customers I've talked to that have told me they've customized so much that they're now actually looking at a re-implementation rather than an upgrade. So that's our first guideline. And the second guideline we gave ourselves is that if you actually configure something, it shouldn't break when you move from update to update. So in other words, when you get new features, it shouldn't break your old features. So let's talk about change and the two types of change that we set out to address. Well, the first kind of change is exactly what you're seeing here. It's organizational change. It's a change that we know, A, is constant, and B, it's not going away. And we also know we can't predict it or when it's going to happen. We just know that it's going to come. So ask yourself what you do at your company when there's organizational change. Are you empowered to do it yourself, or do you maybe partner with another team? Do you have a business partner? Well, when there's organizational changes, we wanted to empower our users to be able to manage the change themselves. So let's go ahead and show you how we did that. We're going to log on here as a user by the name of Logan McNeil. And Logan actually comes in the morning, and she never knows what to expect. Every day is different, but her boss calls her and says, hey, Logan, you know what? I'm looking at our teams here, and I wanted you to check out our organization. Well, she's got her org chart up here. Let's take a look at this and make it a little bit bigger so that we can see exactly what Steve is talking about. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at our team. Well, you know what? I'm going to be adding some groups to your team, a comp team and some development teams and some knowledge teams. So I think it kind of makes sense for payroll to actually roll up under Teresa. So, you know, if you could go ahead and do that, that would be great. Well, no problem. Of course she can do that. That's the kind of change that we want to give her the ability to impart. So she's just going to click right here on her payroll department. And just like we did with people, where we had manager self-service, here's where we've got organizational self-service. So we can change who this reports up to or who they roll up to, and maybe divide them up, or, you know, we can do anything we want here. But let's go ahead and we're going to change who this actually reports to. She's not going to roll up, payroll isn't going to roll up to human resources anymore. It's going to roll up to finance and administration. Now, you can see the effective date right here. Steve might have said, hey, this isn't going to happen until the beginning of the year. And that happens all the time. But I could do it right now if I wanted. So let's go ahead. We'll say it's going to be effective today. And we'll say, instead of rolling up to human resources, we'll say it's going to roll up to finance and administration. And we'll say it's for Steve Morgan. And we can go ahead and submit that. Great. It's done. Okay. Like, how long did that take us? Maybe 2 minutes? I was talking. But, you know, 2-3 minutes, that is how you have an impact. Now, I'm the person that always has to look at the change and make sure the change took place. You can do that right here. So I'm seeing, yep, it happened. I've got insight not only into what happened, right? I moved it up to reporting to finance and administration, but if there were multiple approvals, I've also got insight into the process itself. And I'm also that person that wants to see it. So I'm going to click right here on my related action, and we're just going to check out the org chart again. And from here now, when I take a look at finance and administration, guess what's there? Our payroll department. So that was quick and easy to do, and we did that in less than 5 minutes, 2-3 minutes maybe. And now we call Steve back, and he says, that's great, thanks so much. Now the best part about this is that now when I send Steve reports about finance and administration, as of yesterday, if I ran a report, for example, maybe a staffing report, maybe I looked at open positions, maybe I looked at my position summary, if I ran any of that, or maybe my compensation reports, yesterday my finance department would not have included payroll, but today all those reports do. So now I can route these to Steve and say, oh, hey, by the way, we've got updated numbers now that we made that change, and that's how we're strategic, and that's how we have an impact. Now, that's one way that we talked about change. One type of change is organizational change and who needs to move where and how fast we could react. But the other kind of change we need to look at is how the business actually runs and how we react to the process of how we do things. Here we're looking at a new hire and how we need to change and how we need to maintain control over our business processes, especially in a post-Enron world where you always want to make sure that you've got control over how we do things and you've got insight into how we do that. Now, this is a new hire. Well, these are potentially the steps that we want to go through. Well, the great thing is that Workday actually delivers over 325 of these optimized events or business processes like a new hire. And we're going to give you that default definition so that if it's the same across your company, great, you can use our default definition. Or if it's different across your company or across the globe, I know that we don't hire the same way in Canada as we do in France, as we do in the US or in Shanghai. We can have different definitions so that when your auditors walk in and say, tell us how you hire or terminate or how you do name changes or how you bring data into the system, you've got all the audits and the controls and you've got the power to be able to say, here, this is exactly how this works. So we just showed you two ways to adapt to change by managing your people in your organization and to know that you own all of your business processes. We've actually done a couple of the business processes. We requested PTO, we just did a reorganization, and we even had some insight into expenses. So we're always participating in the business process, and you've got control over what those rules are and how you actually do things. So the change is always going to be fast. We want to make sure that we can get involved in the change, and we also want to make sure that when we do the change that the auditing is always on. So we know that things are simpler and we know that it's faster, but simple and fast are actually only two pieces of our perfect trifecta, and you know exactly what that next piece has to be. It has to be smarter. So for Workday and all of our customers, it's all about the power of one global system of record, one system to manage, one delivery model, one version, and one community for our customers. And because there's only one, the economies of scale are huge, so we're going to talk about that. And the other thing that we talk about is when we have everything in one place, the biggest perk that you'll see as a customer is the insight that you'll have now into your workforce and your organization and your business. Now, I love this quote, and I know you probably know this one too. You can't manage what you can't measure. And when we were logged in as Robert, we were answering a lot of questions there, like who works here and what are they working on and what is the cost. But how do you answer that on a global scale when all of your systems are all over the place? How could Robert have possibly answered those quickly and easily if everybody had different systems across the globe? Well, the answer is that he really couldn't. And even if he could consolidate all of that into a data warehouse, as soon as it got there, it would be out of date. And the other thing it wouldn't be able to do is take action, right? If I see something, I want to take action on it. So we wanted to make sure we had a global framework for everybody and make sure that you got away from having silos of people data. And if you're wondering what those silos are, just ask yourself at your company how many logins you have to how many different systems, compensation, performance, expenses, payroll, time. All of these things are different systems, and there's no reason why you need to be stored there so many times. You should just be in there one place. So when we think about that, having one global system of record, it's just smarter. Get away from those multiple systems, away from the silos, get away from having no visibility and control in data warehouses, and make sure that you're addressing those reporting challenges. Now when people ask me about global, they're always asking me sort of how many. So we're going to share that with you as well, making sure that you're aware of how we're tracking people. So we're doing this in 228 different countries, tracking communication profiles. And of course, a communication profile is basically all the information about a person, their name, address, formatting, their phone numbers, their emergency contacts, all of that detail for you. Making sure we've got access across the globe to help you manage your personal information privacy or your data privacy. So providing guidance at a country level, so you could change this for your tenant if you wanted to, but guidance for things like diversity and ethnicity, religion and military statuses, all of that is available and online for you to look at from a Workday perspective. And of course, when you have one system for everyone to use, you want to make sure that that experience for every user is meaningful and making sure that they see that in their language of choice. Now, when we think about that, languages of choice and why that's important, for the folks at Four Seasons, many different cultures, languages, and country rules involved, and we came to understand that Workday was the best HCM solution for us. Now for Four Seasons, it's all about their brand. There's two things that matter, their brand and their people, and that's what gives them a competitive advantage. And they will tell you that talent management is their real business at Four Seasons. And what they needed to do is really mobilize their talent around the world. It was a little bit about, how they staff and how they, how they're going to staff the next property that they open, but it's all about addressing the different needs of the workforce around the globe, and they do that with Workday. So doing all of that with one global system of record. Also talking about one delivery model for the power of one. It's not integrated, it's not unified, it's just one system. If you have to count more than one system, then it's not one system. And that's exactly what Workday is. It's just one system. So for the entire suite, you have HCM and maybe you want to add recruiting, you just subscribe. Maybe you have payroll and you want to add financials or expenses, no problem. You just subscribe. It's all one system. Newest features, you just turn them on. So there's no separate databases, no integrations to make it talk. There's no separate reporting, security, or workflow. It's all the same tool. It's all one system, and it's all in the cloud. So we worry about all the things that we don't want you to worry about. So what are these things? So making it smarter means you've got one vendor to go to for all of this. So here's what we do for you and take off your plate. The hardware, the patches, the fixes, the upgrades, we do all of that for you. And of course, being in the cloud means a subscription-based pricing, so for the first time, HR has now become predictable and measurable. And if we think back to what Peter Drucker said, we can't manage something we can't measure. This is definitely a welcome change. And it also means, since you're on one vendor and have one system, you get the latest innovations. So it means all of our customers are all on the same version, they have the same conversation, and no customer is ever left behind. So when you have 2 updates a year, we're constantly providing you with the latest innovations, but we also need to never upgrade to get the latest functionality. You just turn it on. It's always there with the latest release. You're probably thinking, well, why do I care about that? Well, it means that we never ever start a conversation with, okay, tell me what version you're on and tell me what database you're on. Everyone's on the same database, or on the same version rather. And it also means that all of Workday is marching to the same song. All our developers are always working on the same release, all the customers are on the same release, and best of all, it means that if somebody shares something with you in our customer community, it means that you can use it too. So what is our customer community and how do we share that? Well, I'm always getting asked about how we're social and how social media matters and how collaboration matters and what we're doing with it. And that's what we're doing in our user community. We're making sure that customers have a really transparent experience to our product strategy, our product management, and even collaborating customer to customer through users groups and making sure people can ask questions and share questions and even share things like a report. Why would you go and hire a consultant if you could go and look online and go, oh, someone already created that. I can just grab it, make a few changes, and make it my own. And that's the kind of collaborative experience that we want our customers to make sure that they have. That is the next generation of business applications. It's all about making sure that you've got a meaningful experience. And we recognize that. This is actually one of the reasons I joined Workday, is to make sure our customers still had a voice. People love being asked, what do you think? And it's that kind of engagement with the product that we love to have with our customers. And you can see here, we've asked our customers, if you want to have a great experience, tell us what you think. Give us your ideas. You heard at the beginning that 347 of the new features, 68 were customer created. Well, you can see here of the last 3 updates, over 200 were created from what we call the brainstorm. So we're not going to create features and tell you to love them. You're going to also participate with us and tell us how you think you could use the product differently and better. People can vote on that, and we put them into the product as you've seen. There's no point in us designing features we think are cool if our customers are not going to use them. So you can see here why the power of one is smarter for our customers. Smarter because there's one system of record, one delivery model, one version, one vendor, one community, and one voice. And having everything in one place does one more thing for our customers. It gives them insight. And now they can have everything in one place for one set of answers. And with built-in business intelligence, they can have everything available to them on dashboards that'll let them tell stories. And when they have a question, with one click, they can slice and dice and have an answer, and they can take action right from there. So let's jump in here, and we'll take a look at some of the other areas where we're going to have insight. So let's jump in here, and we'll log in as, well, not Robert. We'll log in here as Logan. Now we'll jump back to her favorites page here, and we're going to give you two different examples of insight. So the first insight is one we haven't actually talked about that much. It's her dashboard. So she's got lots of different dashboards here, everything that you could imagine. She's got financials, she's got labor cost analysis, she's got access to everything, right? Because it's all in one system. She doesn't have to log in anywhere else. Let's go take a look here at talent, because we haven't talked about that a lot. Again, this is her configurable dashboard. This is giving her insight into the stuff she cares about the most. So here's her organizational goals. How is she progressing? How is everything she does every day managing back to those goals? Well, she's also building succession plans, and she can see that some of them are at risk. And the thing she focuses on most is making sure that we've also got a great pipeline of leaders. So let's go ahead here and let's view a little bit more about this. So she's got insight here into this pipeline. So she can see for all of these different areas, do we have a ready pipeline of leaders? No, we absolutely don't. It's an epic fail across the board. She's got a target of 3, and like nobody has 3. So let's go ahead here and we'll drill in and take a look at sales and marketing, and we'll see actually the details behind here. How bad is this? Well, let's take a look. We'll make that a little bit bigger. And actually, we'll move this over a little bit. We don't want it to be that big. There we go. So we'll move this over here, and we can see, you know, it's not as bad as I thought, actually. Some of them have a target of 3. But let's take a look at what we're actually dealing with. Let's pick on the Vice President of Sales. So we can drill in here and let's take a look at his succession plan. He's got 2 people out here, Angela and Camilla. I can compare them side by side, look at their talent and tenure, their qualifications, succession, and their readiness. But I need one more person, don't I? I at least need 3 for my slate. So let's go out here and use Find Workers. Find Workers is part of our Find framework. You're going to hear about that everywhere in Workday. I can find workers, I can find candidates. If I'm an employee, I can find a job. If I'm looking on your website, I can look for a job. So all of that is there. And from here, I've already got a couple folks. So what I could do here is maybe slice and dice by, you know, potential directors or maybe by management, but I've got 2 folks here already. So let's go ahead and we'll compare them. And I can see that Allison compared to Daryl, I've got some compensation deltas there, right? One's paid quite a bit more here. We've got our qualifications, so our skills, and taking a look at competencies and certification, talent details, and how available they are in terms of how long they've been here, their tenure. Well, you know, one's been here quite a bit longer. So from here, what do you think I'm going to do? I had my dashboard. I've got to create 3. I found some people. Here's one of my folks. Here's where I can come right here to my preview window, and I can add him to the succession plan right from here. So I found the person that I wanted. I can add him to the Vice President plan. There's our Vice President of Sales, Joey Kowalski, and there we've got a couple folks. Now you can see what's also popped up here, a contextual analytic. Well, what other things do I need to think about here? Oh, well, it's told me that a couple people have raised their hand, you know, on their professional profile and said, hey, I'm interested in this job. And for Brandon Harris, who's a regional sales manager, that's awesome because he might be interested in a management job. So maybe I want to reach out to him and put him on that career path, maybe assign a mentor for him. That's great. But this is kind of disturbing for me. Susan Steinberg, my VP of Global Support, wants to move into sales. Well, even though she didn't come up in my search, even though she didn't come up, I still want to go have a conversation with her and make sure she's happy. And if she's not, maybe we want to transition her out of that role. So those are some things that we want to think about. So again, taking a look here at Daryl, we can go and add him to the readiness plan. Maybe we'll say he'll be ready in a year, or maybe we'll say he's ready now, and we can go ahead and finish that. So very quick and easy. So what did we do there? Well, we had insight into our dashboard. Do we have a ready pipeline of leaders? We did not. We went out and found somebody. We compared that talent, and now we do have a ready pipeline of leaders for that particular role. And we can keep going through that over and over until we have a good, solid slate of succession candidates. So that's one kind of insight that we have. The other kind of insight that we have, we'll just go back to being Robert here for just one sec, is just to make sure that we've got insight into what's going on, not just talent, but we want to make sure that as we're doing things, as we're approving things, that we're asking and answering those correct questions. So here's Robert. He was our hiring manager. He was also the person that we looked at for mobile, and he wanted to take a look at a couple of different things here. So you know what, he manages not only a team, but he also manages the spend for that team. And we had looked at the fact that Lee Friedman was actually spending an awful lot of that money. Well, I want to go ahead here and I want to look at those expense reports. So I can drill out here and say, you know what, this person's out of policy, but why? Well, I can just highlight there, oh, the workers had more than 50% of their approved expense reports out of policy in the last 12 months. Well, that's not very good. I'm going to go here and see, well, they've got missing attachments. Oh, and the airfare exceeds $600. Well, I want to, what's she doing here? You know what, I'm not so thrilled about this. Maybe I want to go and give her some feedback here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on our related action. Now keep in mind here, I'm taking a look at my expense information, and now I'm going to talent information. I'm going to give her some feedback, because when I'm doing her performance review, even though she might have an amazing outcome as an employee, she's not adhering to company policies, and that makes me look bad. So I want to make sure I share that with the employee. Maybe we'll just say we need our receipts. And we can go ahead and submit that. So we've got some feedback that we've shared with her, and so now she'll be able to see that. And so that's him managing his pipeline, having insight into that, insight into expenses, insight into talent. The last thing that we're going to do here is go back into his inbox, because I remembered that he had an expense report for Lee, and he wants to maybe take a look at that. I can't believe this. She's missing her attachments again. It's telling me that right away. Okay, well, you know what? That's ridiculous. She's missing her attachments. And guess what else has popped up here? Well, what's popped up is some stuff that maybe I want to think about. Is she high potential? Does she, oh, she's achieved her quota. Well, you know what? Just because she's achieved her quota doesn't mean that she doesn't have to adhere to the company policies. So here's where I can have that insight. She's a repeat offender, and I can say, you know what? I'm going to deny this, or I'm going to send it back, and I can tell her why. So a very quick and easy way to have insight into not only talent details and personal information, but also making sure you're having insight into the business and how it impacts you as a manager and how you're going to be judged and how you're going to be weighted. So you want to make sure that you've always got access to that. So with that, as we've come to the top of the hour, we wanted to wrap up here, and what we've really focused on showing you is how Workday is simpler, how it's faster, and how it's smarter. If you want to see another one of our Workday live presentations, you can certainly come out to our website, www.workday.com, and join us for a series of 1-hour live webinars designed to provide product overviews across the entire product suite. And thank you so much for joining us. If you want to stay connected with us out in the media, you can join us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, and of course Google+. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Workday, because we'd always love to answer them for you. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day. We know there's a lot of places that you could have been for the last hour, but we're really grateful that you chose to spend it with us. Thanks so much, and have a great work day.